Today, I'm speaking with Corine Wofford. She is an award-winning founder, a CEO, and a mentor of strategic business strategies. She also has an amazing new book, which is called Negotiate with Success: How to Get What You Want, When You Want It, Faster and Without a Fight. So today we will be talking about how you can do that in a really empowered way. So enjoy. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast for this week. This week, I have my friend Corine Wofford with me. Hi, Corine. How are you, darling?
I'm doing fine. It's great to be here. Thank you, Natalie.
So great to have you here. Now, today we're going to be talking about a skill that we all need, that we all use from time to time, sometimes effectively and sometimes not so effectively. So today we're going to be talking about how we can do that well. Now, and that is negotiation. Now, Corine has a book out, which is fairly new. It's called Negotiate with Success: How to Get What You Want, When You Want It, Faster and Without a Fight. Now, that sounds like a really good deal. And I think we all want to know how to do that. So why don't we start a little bit with your background? How did you get so good at negotiating? Was it something that you picked up over time, or there were skills that were kind of handed down to you?
Right. Well, I know that, many of us have the foundational skills and knowledge on negotiation. And for me, I come from a very big Italian family. So initially, we had some family meetings that were a part of what I did when we grew up. And it really helped me with developing emotional intelligence. And I know when I was in college, I taught other collegiates leadership skills, oftentimes including managing conflict. And I would, I have a background in business, and that's what my degree is in, but I have a minor in French and theater. And I was in an improv group in college, and I remember also really honing in on some of those great listening skills and helping others to save face. Those are some foundational things. But Natalie, as a woman business owner now, I'm a mom, a wife, a business owner, and community contributor like many of your audience members.
Yeah.
I just happen to have trained over 100,000 business professionals and helped them learn how to negotiate. But I can remember when I first started my career, after I left IBM, I worked for a global consulting company. And there was a time when I realized my overgiving nature was costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it had to stop. Would you like to hear the story?
I would love to hear that story, because I think a lot of women just went ding, 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 that's me. Because that's in our nature, right?
Is. And what a beautiful thing to have giving as a part of your nature. I'm still very much a giver. However, at that particular time, I remember it. It was yesterday. I was 29 years old. I was working for a global consulting company. We were in Nashville with 11 other facilitators getting ready to give a management training program for Sony executives. And in comes the director, and she says, "We've got a problem. The French entourage from Sony would like their program in French tomorrow. Do we have any takers?" Well, you can imagine if you were in the room, you could have heard a pin drop. But me, all I could hear was my heart beating 1,000 beats a minute and the voice in my head saying, "Corine, whatever you do, do not raise your hand. Good Lord, nobody here even knows you speak French," right? I mean, do they know you speak French? What if they know I speak French? And then that's when the argument went from my head to my heart. My hand made the decision. And I said, "I can help." Well, that director was thrilled. She comes over and we're going through the leader's guide when I hear to the right of me, 3 facilitators are laughing, saying, "Rookie, she probably doesn't even know she could have gotten paid more money for that." Well, I looked at him and I didn't care about that. I'm here to be of service, and I'm talking. And then the 1-2 punch comes pretty quickly when I hear them talking about their per diems. And they were all making double what I was making, delivering the same level of content to the same level of executives. And I was doing it in French. Well, I grabbed my materials, went up to my room. I'm having the, beat myself up conversation going in my head. Like, you just really had to connect with the toughest gig on the project. I get in, I'm talking up to myself like, of course I'm not making it. I'm probably not smart enough to make that money. I'm not good enough to make that money. All the unworthy things that come up. And I think, I didn't negotiate that. So of course I don't deserve it. Well, I shut the door and those tears begin to roll. And I sit down and I decide, you know what? Two things. I'm going to make a decision right now. First of all, I'm going to knock it out of the park tomorrow. Second of all, I'm going to find out a little bit about that per diem thing and negotiate up. And the only thing was, Natalie, I did not know how to negotiate. But I will tell you what, I'm a certified master facilitator. The next day, we killed it. Our program was the talk of the conference. And while they were all celebrating, I was in my room trying to figure out how I'm going to negotiate. And it turned out that I had to negotiate with the vice president of the region. And I was a contractor giving their programs in management, sales, and customer service and coaching, way before that was cool, to their Fortune 500 base of clients. So I had to wait over 2 months for the vice president to come in and have a conversation with me about this. Now you can, most people, the problem that the book solves is helping people, who are wondering, how are other people negotiating, their way to less work and more money while I'm over here boo-hoo-hooing in my office and working too much for too little, right? Well, oftentimes what people will do is avoid it, the negotiation conversation altogether. They will, or if they have it, they will cave in, or they'll just give up profits when they negotiate. So all of these things were going through my head, and what really saved me was from backing out of the whole thing, because just like so many women, I didn't want to be perceived as difficult. I developed relationships with these marketing reps who then recommended that I go teach their clients at these Fortune 500 companies. And I didn't want to jeopardize that, nor did I want to appear greedy. I think all of these things go through our minds when we negotiate. And my dad was a great negotiator, a great entrepreneur. He really encouraged me to stand up for what I believe in and ask specifically for what I wanted. So I practiced with him. And although our styles are very different, I learned a lot. And I went in with my, like a salary negotiation. I had all my testimonials with me. And as it turned out, when the big day came after all my preparation, it was so much easier than I thought. The vice president, also Italian. We talk about shared values. We both love training and development. We talk about global travel, which my husband and I were involved in. We love that too. And he just gave me a raise, and he didn't need anything else. Well, I thought there's got to be more to this. And what I realized was that wasn't going to be enough for me. In that moment, I made a decision that all of the other facilitators in the region also needed to know how to increase their per diem so that it was equitable across the board. And so what if we could create sort of an understanding or a process by which new facilitators could come in and maybe get tested and then co-create, co-facilitate and get tested, and then facilitate on their own and get tested, and then train the trainers and get tested. And then, you have 40 educational programs. The more of those programs that you get certified in, the higher your per diem.
Right.
That's a good idea. Why don't you take that on? Like they always say, anytime you have a great idea. But anyway, I was able to work with everybody to come to some sort of framework that helped everybody increase their per diem. And research really shows, Natalie, that when women find this resistance within, they can move through it faster when they negotiate on behalf of others versus just themselves. And that truly was my experience as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm assuming that negotiating is more than just asking.
Oh,
I suppose it starts with asking, but
it does. And, a negotiation discussion is simply the ability to discuss a situation to a mutually satisfactory outcome. When we talk about sales negotiations, it's a little bit more complicated, but it doesn't really need to be. It's basically a process where differences in price terms and conditions and deliverables are discussed to reach or gain commitment. So sometimes we have to talk about price and deliverables and terms and conditions, but basically it's still just a conversation, right?
Right. And it sounds like, I mean, for me, if I'm doing a negotiation, I'm like, okay, what's a win for you? What's a win for me? How do we find a common ground that we both win, kind of thing? If it's a win-win, or if it's a win-win-win, then yeah, let's do that. But is there a way that one could structure that conversations for it to be more effective?
Oh, absolutely. And first of all, I might note that, I have a big heart to serve. I love social entrepreneurism. I mean, if I'm connecting with other people that want to create a meaningful difference in the world, man, we are on the same wavelength. It's collaborative. Let's move forward. But if you are collaborating with someone who is not, you are most likely going to lose. So it is important to have a structure in place and strategies in place for sealing the deal and getting what you want without a fight. So I can share some of those with you, but in the book, I share a 5-step framework, and that does sort of structure your conversation. We talk about understanding negotiation principles. I'll just give you one quick example. We shared a definition of negotiation. Some people overcomplicate that, but this whole idea of the gut check, you've probably felt it, right? Mm-hmm. When all of the interests are pulling you together, but differences are pulling you apart. That's what the negotiator's dilemma is all about. So the best thing to do is really prepare. And when you're preparing, you want to prepare with a purpose. That's step 2. And it's all about understanding what you want, what the other person wants, and can you define the difference? Because that in essence is what you are negotiating. So you want to understand negotiation principles, prepare with a purpose, and then seal the deal. And there are, over-the-counter kind of conversations and steps that you can take. But most people want to go straight to how to handle difficult people. In the book, we talk about, this idea of closing the deals you want quickly and without a fight, but also being able to soften even the most difficult people, and avoid some of the mistakes that can cost you the deal. So when we talk about sealing the deal, in the book, we talk about the top 3 counterproductive behaviors that you might encounter. And they are high opening demands, escalating authority, and ultimatums. When I do custom training in professional speaking and training with organizations and groups, I talk about the top 7 counterproductive behaviors and strategies to handle them. And we net them out so it's easy. Today, for your audience, I thought it might just be easy to share, like if I'm talking to a girlfriend and they're like, I'm trying to, get a sponsorship deal, just can you net it out for me? What can I do? So some simple things that your audience might be able to do to get past this idea of no.
Right.
And just the first thing would be to sort of move past the fixed I mentality. And what I mean by that is that, if you hit a roadblock and you don't think you can move forward and give them what they want without losing something on your own, then that's when you're in that mentality that says, geez, this is all there is. And, that's why we're at a standstill here. And if you can expand past that mentality and really look for what I call high value, low cost trades, that really helps, right? Like for example, there was a woman that I was working with and in Austin, and she had a boutique law firm. And there was a company that wanted to buy her firm. She was quite profitable, and she did not want to sell this firm. So finally, when they got to the point where she was going to do it, there were many aspects to the deal, but the one thing that was holding her up was that she didn't want to lose her executive assistant. And the company really wanted the deal. And so some people might consider this a concession on the part of the larger law firm, because finally they did give in and give her what she wanted. But she she framed it. She positioned it and said, hey, this is a low cost, high value thing to me. And it's a deal breaker if it doesn't happen. So she, I'm so proud of her because she was willing to walk away if she wasn't at least able to get that. And so I think that if you can expand that, that high mentality that I was talking about, that can really help. Also, another really easy thing to do is to use standards and framing, Natalie. So like, for example, in our industry, we're always attending training and development events or whatever, learning and development events. And say you're at an event and it's $500 an event. Now, maybe you're only paying $400 because of the group rate, whatever, but it's still $400. And during one of the evenings, you've got this noise that's pounding like a heartbeat on your window. It's just boom, boom. It keeps you up all night. And so then you wake up, you call the downstairs, the technician comes up, even though it's 3 a.m, and he goes, oh yeah, that's this wire that's a little loose. It's just hitting against the building. Don't worry about it. It's like, well, okay, so he leaves. I asked him to document it. Okay, so then you can go down and ask if you can talk to the manager about this, because is it standard operating procedure for this great hotel to not provide a good night's rest for their guests? And of course it is not, right? I mean, this sounds pretty standard, but as it turns out, in that particular case, that manager just comped the night stay. And when I talk about how even at home and working with service providers, we save about 10 grand a year just based on using standards and framing with service providers. And you don't have to be snippy about it. You don't have to be argumentative, but you can just listen and ask good questions. And they may be able to provide another alternative for you. In this particular case, they wanted to say, well, hey, no one else has complained about this. I said, what a blessing. I'm the only person who was impacted, but then of course, if you're a VIP member or a gold member, whatever this hotel is, you want to share that as well. But yeah, I think oftentimes you can get what you want without a fight, just with that, but using a couple of those strategies. But there are other things you can do. And after you seal the deal, my 4th step in the framework is all about celebrating new service. Now, obviously, when we celebrate, we basically do that to rewire the behavior, right?
Right.
And people forget this when they negotiate. It either wore them out, they're so glad it's done, they hope they never have to do it again, or whatever else. But really, it's just a skill. And so you want to celebrate, not only celebrate with the client, but celebrate with the team. Give yourself some, love for getting through it. And the last step is mindset mastery. So this is sort of a big circle, right? Because it's a dynamic process. It's a conversation. And if you're dealing with a team, there could be team manipulations involved. So it doesn't always work in a straight line. But if you can move through it in a way that says, hey, I'm going to do this as much as I can. I want to understand what these principles mean and some of the different things I can do so that I can bring them to bear when I'm actually face to face with the client and, creating mutual gain. And then if there are objections, hey, just take it in stride. And you don't have to be 100% Italian like me to know that when emotions rise, skills drop. So it's really great to have some strategies on hand to help you move through things professionally.
Yeah. And, I think you bring up an important point, and maybe this is something, if you're listening to the podcast and you purchase the book, you could start to practice your negotiating skills on smaller things like work being done around the home or, small purchases and things that you're doing. It sounds like it's also a fantastic exercise in setting boundaries. and not just setting boundaries, but maintaining boundaries. I think that they're two different things as well. Like you can say, look, this is what I'd like, and I'd like to have it done by this time. And if it's not done by this time, then it's got to cost whatever or whatever that is. But we can say that and go through that uncomfortable conversation, but then sometimes really following through on that is a different situation. So it sounds like that could be part of this conversation as well. And like I said, negotiating on smaller things to build your negotiating skills, so that when you go for something big, that you're feeling super confident about it.
And when I interviewed 500 men to learn a little bit more about what their challenges were and what they wanted to learn. I did this because I've been a woman entrepreneur for over 30 years. And in these women's groups that I'm in, they're like, oh, could you speak at this? Or there'd be a lot of conferences for women that would ask me to speak. And I thought, well, before I develop my framework, I better find out a little bit more about what people want. And the number one thing that I found out that men found were the reason that their negotiations failed was because they did not develop the relationship first.
Right.
The number one reason that women felt that their negotiations failed was because they did not ask specifically for what they want. So to your point, practicing these skills with your family members at home, with service providers, with your virtual assistant or your team members, it just really strengthens that skill and helps you move out of your comfort zone into the negotiation zone when you need it. And, knowing when to negotiate is another kind of conversation. But for the most part, most people feel like when they get the no, is when they want to negotiate. And the thing is, that's not always the case. That's what selling skills are for, right? When you get a no, you know how to handle a no in negotiate when you're selling something. However, when they want something that you cannot provide, and you still want to do business, and they still want to do business with you, why then you have this kind of conditional commitment has been put on the table that hey, we want to work this out. We're not quite sure how it's going to work out just yet. But curiosity is really important at this point. And that's when you can start asking good, high quality questions and really sort of develop that relationship so you understand what they must have and what their would like to have pieces are. And they know what yours are too. And hopefully you can just create an outcome that serves all people at the table, and then also those that will be served.
Right. Excellent. So Corine's book is called Negotiate with Success, How to Get What You Want, When You Want It, Faster and Without a Fight, which I'm sure you can get from Amazon and so forth. And I see that you have a free gift for our audience as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
I do. Well, I wanted to thank you, Natalie, for asking me on, and also to serve your audience by providing a negotiation preparation template. So if you would like the complimentary template, you can just go to negotiatewithsuccess.com/gift. And there's a PDF there. On my website, there's also an opportunity to have a CEO chat with me. So if you want to spend 15 minutes to just say, hey, here's where I'm at. Does this sound good? I'm happy to go through the negotiation preparation template with you so you feel more prepared. And I will say that, when you negotiate, the biggest thing is to never negotiate your dream. I mean, if you are, your dream is really about who you are, right? So that is not negotiable. I don't want any of you to ever feel like you have to negotiate in a certain way or put on a false pretense. I think negotiating in a confident manner is important, and basically remembering that is key. I always tell my clients at the end of our talks, just imagine a day when you negotiate and fear doesn't win. imagine a day when you negotiate and all parties do win.
Hmm.
And finally, just imagine a day when you negotiate and you're able to do so with success.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Corine. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you today.
Oh, thank you, Natalie. It was great to be here.